into the material. If you've got a Bible or Bible app, look at Joshua chapter 1. And last week we started a brand new series that we are titling Champions Wisdom, Developing and Identifying the Champion Leader in You. And so as we are making our way to Joshua chapter 1, there are just some things that God's been turning over in my own heart about it. And so, we're going to talk about, in this series, we're going to talk about some principles of leadership, kingdom principles. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of tired of everybody giving us their laundry list, point 1 through 4, and 6 steps to this and 2 steps to that and 3 ingredients and whatnot. Because the truth is, there are some seasons in our faith where our formulas don't work. And if you are going to become the leader in your sphere of influence, your place of calling that God's called you to be, there are going to be seasons of dismantling, if you will. God takes his time building champions. God really takes his time building leaders. And so we're using Joshua chapter 1 as an anchor text. And we'll get into a minute, but what I really want to just kind of begin with tonight is to lay this on you. And that is that the greater your promise as a leader, the deeper your process. The greater your promise, the deeper your process. So we're looking at Joshua chapter 1. Now I want to remind you, let's just go ahead and read and get that done. Joshua 1:1. And look what God says to him. It says, "Now it came about," verse 1, "after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, that the Lord spoke to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' servant, saying," Moses' servant is dead. "Now therefore rise up, cross this Jordan, you and all the people, to the land which I am giving to them, to the sons of Israel. Every place," and I want to highlight and emphasize that, "every place on which the sole of your foot treads, that have I given to you," or I have given it to you. God's using the language of the past tense. So from God's perspective, it's already done. And this is important when we talk about leadership accomplishment, leadership achievement, creating a fresh season of successes. And so tonight, as we move through this, we're going to be talking about leadership principles. We're going to be not 6 steps to this and 5 steps to that and how to do this, dotting the I's and crossing the T's of leadership on a linear level. We're talking about the dynamic effects of kingdom leadership and how God builds leaders. And so there's also going to be a sense of, there's going to be a prophetic element in the sense of the Spirit of God saying some things to us that are going to be highly impactful, because we are crossing the waters of old boundaries. A new season is opening up, specifically in the realm of leadership. And you're going to see in your own sphere, in your own marketplace, you're going to see an influence level that increases and an effectiveness level that comes from it. So this is a model for the season we are in, and what the Holy Spirit is saying to us prophetically about this, specifically in relation to leadership function, leadership identity, leadership authority, and leadership flow. So get ready and hold on, because the Spirit of God's going to talk to you and me tonight and through the length of this series. So we're talking about the dynamic principles of kingdom leadership, discovering and developing the champion leader in us, but also bringing the prophetic edge of the freshness of the newness that God is saying, hey, I want you to elevate your level of expectation, because what I'm about to move you into doesn't look like anything you've been experiencing. And so this is really what he's saying to him. Every place on which the sole of your foot, verse 3, treads, I have given it to you, just as I've given it to Moses. So, or just as I spoke to Moses. And there's a lot to unpack here. So from the wilderness of Lebanon, even to the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites as far as the great sea toward the setting of the sun will be your territory. No man will be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Just as I have been with Moses, I will be with you. I will not fail you or forsake you. And somebody right now just really needs to embrace that. In light of some of the challenges that you have been through on a leadership level, in the sphere that you lead in, that you serve in, that you move and do what God's given you to do in, you've had some challenges and some there are some concerns perhaps that you even carry, that the cycle of conflict and opposition, is it going to be broken? Am I going to see am I going to have to see, or am I going to see the successes that are in my heart that I feel like God's built me to give life to? And how do I move forward out of a season of opposition and conflict with the confidence that the days that are before me are not like the days that are behind me? And so I'm going to be addressing that tonight. But when God says here, as I was with Moses, I'm going to be with you, I am with you, I will not fail you or forsake you, I really sense that there is a prophetic touch of a now word from the Holy Spirit for you, saying, I want to remove the fear factor from the equation in terms of it being an intimidating and defying force in your heart, in your emotions, in your thinking, because I need you to move forward thoroughly confident, completely whole. No, you're not perfect. None of us are perfect as leaders. Great leadership does not come from perfect people. Great leadership doesn't come from perfect people or believers even who have it all together. Great leadership is the result of moving confidently and boldly into the fullness of what God's given us to do, believing with everything we've got that our mandate is not our own, but that we have received it from Him, and that because we carry His mandate, we carry heaven's mandate into the earthly territory we've been called to bring influence and leadership into. We believe that no matter what transitions, no matter what wildernesses, no matter what storms, no matter what conflicts or wrestlings we've been enduring, we believe that there are thresholds of transformation that we cross, times and seasons where God says, as I've been with the great ones who've come before you, those you admire, those you respect, those you look up to, those heroes, the leader heroes who have influenced and infected your thinking, I want you to know that just as I was with them at that level of success, I'm going to be with you at the same level of success. And so I want to challenge you not just to rise up to do what I've called you to do, but to do it differently in these days, to believe differently, to believe more. Sunday in our local house, we talked about a next level mindset. We started a series of teaching about developing and cultivating a next level mindset and how God uses prophetic words and opening up new seasons by the release of fresh word in our life to unstick us, to free us, to help us. So God here, and this is really what I want you to see on a leadership level, God is giving Joshua some assurances, some confidences. And I want to spend a few minutes tonight talking about some of the things, some of the dynamics that we experience, and some of the places God has to bring us through. So I want to really focus on the fact that God uses the preeminent leader that Joshua had looked up to and said, I don't want you to compare yourself to him, because unfair comparisons are unhealthy for you as a leader. But what I want you to know is that as you move forward in a time of new beginnings, you have the absolute confidence. I want you to move forward in confidence, in boldness, in absolute assurance that though you are not Moses, because you have a different personality, a different skill set, you have a different mantle, you have a different assignment, I want you to know that just as you saw for 40 years that I was with him, to the same extent, I'm going to be with you. So I want to break this down real quick for you tonight. Who are the leaders that really resonate with you? Who are the next level leaders in your own thinking that have influenced your life, that you in your private place, you say, I'm not going to compare myself to them because I know I'm not them. There's only one of me, there's only one of them. But I would sure love to be able to succeed on that level. Who are the leaders that you admire? Who are the leaders you respect? Who are the leaders that are in your life that God has brought as models of kingdom leadership, that you see the bona fide evidence of his hand on them, and you see the productivity, the fruitfulness, and the success of their leadership? And you don't have any doubt that God's with them. You have no doubt that they're anointed, that they've been mantled, that they are themselves next level leaders, operating in next level mindset. And so they're inspirational to you, they're motivational, they cause you to aspire to an even greater level. And so I want to ask you, who are they? And then I want to suggest to you on a prophetic level that what God is saying to Joshua, that as I was with the man that you most revered and respected as a leader in your life, to that same level, I will be with you, so that you will be to those you're leading the same level of next level leader that Moses was to you. I want to say that to you, that the promise of God, the ironclad guarantee, as you embrace your call, even stepping into unfamiliar territory, which we're going to get into in this series, and when we begin to deal with the legitimacy and the logistics of the territory factor, we're going to talk about that and look at it. But I want to ask you, who are those next level leaders that you look up to? Because the promise of God is, as you move forward and embrace this, as you embrace a shift in your identity level, as you embrace the shift in the new season that I am moving you into, I want you to know that you have the same guarantee that as I made Moses a next level leader to the folk that he was called to lead, so too at the same level will I make you a next level leader in your sphere of influence. I will not fail you. I will not forsake you. So what I want to deal with tonight is the confidence factor that we need as leaders, and the promise, the guarantee that no matter what maybe you have experienced in your own journey, if confidence didn't matter, the enemy wouldn't attack it so much. And so God says, I don't want you to compare yourself to Moses. And as leaders, we cannot get caught up in comparing ourselves to others, because if we do that, the people that we look up to, we will actually diminish ourselves. So God's actually challenging him and saying, now, I don't want you to compare yourself to Moses, because I don't want you, Joshua, to diminish yourself. I want you to elevate yourself. Give yourself permission to think like a next level leader and see yourself backed with the same level of my favor, the same level of my grace, the same level of my power, my presence, my strength, and my peace, so that as I was with Moses and caused him to succeed in all that I gave him to do and elevated him in the eyes of the people he led, I need you to see yourself worthy, qualified, and capable of receiving that same level of affirmation and authority from me to you, that just as I elevated Moses in their sight, I'm going to elevate you in their sight. And God needs us to be able to internalize that, because confidence is key if we are going to succeed in any level of leadership. There's kind of in the success realm, in the marketplace, and in business, there's kind of how do you want to put it? almost a debate. Remember the old saying, which came first, the chicken or the egg? There's almost kind of the question that is argued over and bantered about, and the philosophies that come from it. Does confidence breed success, or does success breed confidence? So I want to just kind of drop that, and I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about it in direct proportion to conflicts, struggles, oppositions maybe that you've experienced in your sphere of influence as a leader. And I want to ask you the question: in seasons of struggle, when you're struggling to create something, when you're struggling in your sphere as a leader to accomplish something, how does that impact your sense of self-confidence? How does it impact it? You see, one of the things that God is saying to us, the model of kingdom leadership, is God builds leaders. He builds us through process. He builds us through brokenness. He builds us through conflict and struggle. Sometimes he builds us in wildernesses and seasons of isolation. Yes, God even builds us through failure. You see, as leaders, failure is fertile soil. Failure is essential to success. The very man, by the way, that God says to Joshua here, as I was with Moses, so I'll be with you. God chose Moses because he knew he was the most influential human leader in Joshua's thinking. And God wanted to paint a very clear mental model for Joshua so that Joshua could get what God was saying to him. So the very same next level leader that Joshua so revered, and because God knew that, God said, what I did with him, I'm going to do with you. I'm going to elevate him I'm going to elevate you to the level that you esteem him. That very same Moses that was so respected and elevated and authoritative was the same Moses who failed when he was 40 years old and spent 40 years in Midian, in the desert of Midian, which literally is a Hebrew word for strife, and meaning to strive and to contend. And it is a very key insight into the fact that Moses spent 40 years striving and contending with a sense of failure and regret over what he did when he killed the Egyptian at 40 years of age and had to run for his life. So it's important to understand that with God, failure is fertile soil. Now, when God is building you and me as leaders and he allows us to walk through seasons of failure, failure can also be qualified as success famine. So let me just camp out there for a minute or two. Do you know what it is like to, as a leader on a leadership level, with whatever assignment, task, territory, dream, vision, group of people God's given you, to go through a place of success famine? Do you know what it is like? If you don't, and you're a real leader and God's building you for leadership, trust me, you're going to go through it. You will experience the fertile soil of failure. But the reason I call it fertile soil is because God has a way of redeeming what we perceive as failure and use it as preparation for next level leadership. So part even of having a next level mindset is reapproaching how we assess our struggles, our failures, our success famine. That no matter how hard you work or try, you just seem to struggle. There are times when God requires that of us. That's not when God's developing your leadership gift. That's when God's developing the leader in you. So Moses has gone through that, and God elevated him out of his success famine into a place of absolute success as a leader. Moses maxed out in his assignment to bring the children of Israel to the brink of shifting in their identity and in their natural season from being wanderers to possessors. But I want you to think about something. The very man that Joshua revered was not qualified to do what God had called Joshua to do. As a leader, it's important that you know that in spite of the success famines you may go through, nobody can do what you've been called to do like you. That's why God gave that assignment to you. And so in that, there needs to be a confidence. on natural confidence. So does success breed confidence, or does confidence breed success? The answer is yes, both. Confidence does breed success, and watch this, success breeds confidence. So when God lays this assignment on Joshua, what's the first thing he tells him? The first thing God does prophetically in speaking directly to Joshua about him now being a next level leader, the first thing God addresses on an emotional, psychological, and prophetic level with Joshua is his confidence. And one of the things I am declaring over your life is that there is a rebooting of the confidence of your heart, not just in God now. Now that's important, that's critical. You've got to know God's with you. God confidence, when you carry that as a leader, it changes everything. When you have God confidence, when you are persuaded that God has put in your knowing, that you don't walk into what God's given you to do by yourself, it boosts your confidence. It gives you boldness. It gives you courage. It gives you clarity. It gives you a daily energy to remain focused on the assignment. And that God confidence is essential. That's the starting point. That's the foundation. But listen, you cannot succeed as a leader if you've only got confidence in God but don't have any in you. And if that wasn't the case, why would it not be, if your confidence, if your value and self-worth and self-perception and your confidence specifically in you and in your confidence that you have been appointed and mantled for success, even in spite of and in light of your backstory of success famine. Sometimes the challenge of faith is not to believe in God because you've been through something. It's to believe in yourself again after you've been through something. And so God is, he's healing Joshua, but he is solidifying a sense of identity that I can't help but succeed because I'm not alone. And if God didn't see that I have what it takes to succeed at the task ahead of me, he never would have chosen me. There are 3.5 million other men out here God could have chosen, but he chose me. Furthermore, I've been through 40 years of preparation. I've been in a season and a perpetual, protracted process of leadership preparation. I am well prepared. I am well qualified. I want you to embrace what I just said. You are, and you need to begin to internalize this. On a leadership level, this is critical because you don't need me to tell you, you don't need a prophet to tell you that, there are opponents and opposition and enemies. You already know that. That's not deep revelation. You already know that because you've been through it. You could probably take the webcam right now and we could flip it around on you and you could probably talk to us and give us some really good material about that because you've been through it. So you understand that leadership attracts opposition. So that's not really the point. The point is that you have been given a strong authorization by God to do what he's called you to do and set before you. If you didn't have what it takes, God would not have called you to do it. And so God is giving him, before they begin the process, it's almost as though God is just anointing him afresh and anew and saying, okay, now I want you to move forward in confidence. You're going to have opponents. You're going to go through some stuff, but that stuff can't stop you because you're not alone. And now, Joshua, I want you to know that I believe in you, and I want you to know that I need you to believe in you. The people who are looking to you for leadership and prophetic destiny fulfillment, they need you to believe in you. Joshua, your own sense of satisfaction with the call I've said on your life, that requires you to believe in you. Your success and your assignment demands that you believe in you. Your success and your assignment demand that you believe in you. So what is God spending time on? Rebuilding his confidence. And I know that, as we're on this session tonight, some of us by nature, by personality, by temperament, by life experience, families we grew up in, the culture we come from, some of us are inclined to have more self-confidence than others. Some of it is inherent in the personality that you have and have been given. Others may not feel as self-confident because maybe you weren't validated and affirmed in the family you grew up in, or maybe you've been through some struggles in your own journey and maybe in your career path that have chipped away at your sense of self-confidence or worth. And so one of the things that I really felt the Lord putting his finger on was saying, I want you to encourage my leaders that I believe in them and that I'm going to help them as they're willing to embrace the call to confidence. In fact, if I don't do titles on these iChurch sessions, but if you need a title for tonight, it would be the call to confidence. God needs a confident you. Your enemy fears a confident you. The enemy, I've been saying it recently in our local church, but the enemy only attacks what it fears. An enemy only attacks what it fears. And so if your confidence wasn't key to your success, the enemy wouldn't attack it. So God's saying, I want you to embrace the fact that I believe in you. I want you to embrace your right to believe in you. I want you to embrace the fact that if you don't believe in you, nobody else is going to. John Maxwell, the great leadership guru in America, the former pastor of Skyline Church in San Diego, mega church, thousands of people. And he began to write a lot of books. Most of you, if not all of you, will know who Dr. John Maxwell is. He says it this way: people buy into the leader before they'll buy into the vision. I want to say that again. People will buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. And so if the people God's given you to lead can't buy into you, it does not matter how compelling your vision is or how clearly you communicate it. That's why the enemy attacks your confidence so relentlessly. He wants to tear down what God has built up. But the promise of God is this: I am coming to have a confidence building conversation with you, Joshua. I want you to know that the call to confidence has been released. That sound has been released. And I'm giving you an opportunity to embrace a fresh level of self-confidence. And watch this. As you do that, you're going to see success. Remember, that's the next step God gives him. Every place that the sole of your feet steps on, that I have given you. You're going to take the territory. You're going to max out. You are going to succeed and excel. There is not failure. Yeah, there are opportunities, there are adversity and opposition and enemies. Where you're headed. There will be setbacks. There will be redirects. But losing a battle doesn't mean you've lost the war. And losing a battle doesn't mean you've not succeeded in your assignment. It just means you make an adjustment and you come back stronger. It's the bounce back factor. In fact, a part of bouncing back from a setback is the key to that is confidence and getting a reboot in your confidence. And so God's tying, watch this, God lays fresh confidence on him, gives him the evidence of it. Then what? Then he ties his success to his confidence. So confidence breeds success. And then as you create success, then that success begins to what? Reinforce and elevate your confidence. The enemy only attacks, as I said before, what he fears. And the enemy fears a confident you. So there's several takeaways as we wrap this session. First of all, you need to know that God believes in you. Second, you need to embrace your right to believe in yourself. Third, as a leader, it is counterproductive and totally ineffective to try to convince people of your right to lead. I want to say something to you as you get ready to wrap this up. God told him a little later on in the conversation. We didn't read it tonight for time's sake, but he told him. He said, "Not only as I was with Moses, I'm going to be with you, and I'm going to begin to elevate you in the eyes of the people. Joshua, now that I've set your confidence in order, now what I'm going to begin to do is I'm going to begin to elevate you in an influence level that causes the people you need to succeed in your assignment to rally around you and to believe in you." And I want to say that as a prophetic word. We are in a season of people transition. Some people who've been in your life, God is moving them out. They're not qualified to go with you to the next level. Don't grieve it. Don't try to convince them to stay. Don't try to convince them of the legitimacy of your leadership calling or the dynamic element of your vision. Watch this. As a leader, when you get your God confidence right and your self-confidence right, and you do the right thing with the right way, the right thing the right way with integrity, and focus not on the conflict. You deal with what comes up, but focus on what God's given you to do. Stay focused on the assignment as a leader. And you know what will happen? The people who are supposed to get you will get you. If somebody doesn't get you as a leader, you can't convince them. You can't give them any credential in the world that's going to change their mind, because they're not next level people. Some people that have been in your life, God's moving them out because they are not next level people. And if you're going to have a next level mindset as a leader, you've got to wrestle now not to allow the people transitions to undermine your self-confidence. Those that can walk out on you as God's moving you in to take territory and elevating you in a new season of fresh leadership success, their exit is not your fault. Their exit is not your fault. Because there's some people God wants to rally around your life that cannot enter until some people who've been connected to your life exit. So the call to confidence is, God, I believe that in spite of even the transitionary moments or the transitional element of leadership, I know, some people may walk out, but you ain't leaving me. And so I'm going to succeed, and I'm going to rest my head on the pillow of divine knowing and embrace the call to confidence, because you don't set me up to fail. And I've been called to a fresh season of success. And so as you do that, one of the things that as a leader practically, and I'm done tonight, is you have to reinforce your right to maintain your confidence when transition, people wounding, frustration wants to try to undermine it. Don't let anything you see happening at this season in your life change your mind about who God's been building you to be as a leader, as a man of God, as a woman of God. Don't let anybody change your mind. Don't let anybody change the culture of who you are and what God's called you to do. Don't let anybody undermine your confidence. If God believes in you, then that's all you need, because now you have the right to believe in you. And oh, by the way, before God has this call to confidence conversation with Joshua, he had Moses pouring into him for 40 years. So in those places where you may, as a leader, be tempted because of some of the stuff you're having to deal with, to think in a less confident manner about yourself and the legitimacy of your calling and the legitimacy of the authority that the Lord has set in your life, what you need to do is remember those next level leaders that you look up to and admire, that have seen something in you and have invested in you, because that is the human evidence and the human element of God having been talking to your life through them, saying you're worthy of a next level deposit. You're worthy of next level investments. And so I just really felt this strongly in the last several days, that the Lord wants to minister life and courage and clarity in terms of the confidence factor in your own life. And so I know that God's going to reboot the confidence in you, the confident you,
Your self-confidence, you're going to recover that. If it's been hit, you've taken a hit. The success famines you've been through they're being put behind you, and fresh success seasons and opportunities and doors are opening up to you. That we'll get into that when we talk about the territory. And there's a whole lot more that we're going to unpack methodically as we move through this. I want to take our time with it. But until we deal with the confidence factor, we cannot fulfill all that God has called us to do. So I want to tell you tonight, as I wrap this up, that you have been called to succeed. So now you need to embrace the right to know that without reservation. So I appreciate you being on with us tonight with this iChurch session. I expect and anticipate that this series of teaching is going to really help each of us intuitively, internally, as well as helping build some skills in our toolbox, adding to our skill set as leaders. And so let the things that I've said tonight be practical building blocks in your life that you can use to build on what God's called you to build, where he's called you to build it. There's nobody like you. Nobody can do it like you do it. That's why God gave it to you in the first place. I love and bless you. Thank you so much for being part of iChurch and for being on with us tonight. Remember, this loads right up to YouTube. In fact, we're on YouTube Live right now. But if there's something you want to revisit, or you want to hear the whole thing again, or if there's somebody you know that you believe that this particular teaching would help them, both prophetically and strategically, and on a practical level even, by all means, please give them our YouTube channel. It's just youtube.com/Bishop Howard Bass, and that's all of this message and all of our iChurch sessions are archived on there. And feel free to check that out at any time. Thanks again so much to each of you for being on. And I see, all the names that we mentioned earlier and some others that we didn't maybe get around to or don't know what your names are. But thank you so much for being on tonight. Also, stay connected through our website at citychurchtampa.org. We've got a lot of teaching on there as well. We love and bless you. Thank you so much for allowing me the honor and the privilege to come alongside your journey of faith and speak God's word into your heart and in your life. And so go forward with boldness and courage. The enemy fears a confident you. So you need to embrace the very confident you the enemy is so afraid of. I love you. For our local family, we'll see you Sunday morning at City Church. And for our online faith community, catch you next Wednesday night at 7:30 for iChurch. Have a great week, and may the blessing of the Lord be strong and mighty in your house and upon your life, in Jesus' name.